Hey guys, welcome to an episode of After Hours Installer. Today we're going to tackle adding Crossrails to a Chevrolet Traverse. Now this is going to be for models from 2009 or 10, whenever they started, through 2017. So hopefully we're going to answer any questions you might have. I know friends and family that own Traverse have those same questions. Which kit do I buy? There are apparently three of them. And as much as it might be fun to buy all three, you don't need all three. So let's take a look at what we've got and take a look at the kit, show you how to identify what you need, and then how to install it. And then you'll be off and running. Is this thing on? Hey guys, I'm here today to show you how to do the Traverse Crossrail kit installation, and there appear to be three different part kits that you need to put Crossrails on the vehicle, and I think there's some confusion related to that, so I thought I'd go ahead and explain to you what the difference is and how this can work for you. So let's get right into it. I've gone ahead and taken them out of the box so you see what you get in the kit. Now this includes the Crossrail kit, I guess, that has the C channels in it. And in this situation, apparently there are people that just order the Crossrails only. And if you do that, I guess you're not going to get what you really need, which includes the C channels. And those provide a mounting point on top of the vehicle. Now this vehicle, this Traverse, as you can see here, doesn't have the C channels located inside. So it's something you can reach up and feel to identify. They can look it up by your VIN number, but it's actually easier for you just to, for your own sake, and fairly quickly, reach up on top. If you don't feel them up there, obviously you've got nothing for those Crossrails to mount to. So these are the Crossrails, and what you need is actually this piece that sits inside of that track. If you try to put these just in that opening that's up there right now, they can go in there, but they're not mounting to anything. So that's where the tracks or C channels come in handy, because what ends up happening is these go towards the middle, and then once they slide, they're actually locked down. So there's a piece that goes in here too that's separated, and then you're going to screw into this thing to keep it from sliding, or so you can adjust it in whatever manner you want. But I think the big thing is a lot of people get the Crossrails, they think that's all they need, and then they can't get the job done, especially if you're traveling, looking to go out of town quickly. Put some stuff on your roof, maybe grandma, your aunt, whoever, and go ahead and get traveling. So we're going to go ahead and now go through the process. So first part, as I mentioned, check your vehicle, see if you've got the Crossrail, or should I say the C channels to mount to the Crossrail. If they're not present like they are here, then you're going to need to get them. So onto the C channels. I laid these out, just set them down, but there are different, and you can see you've got a single hole here, yet this one has multiple holes. You'll also notice that they're slightly rounded to follow the contour of the actual vehicle. But if you look up on top of the vehicle, you'll see that the front of the vehicle has more openings present, and actually this is kind of an alignment hole for the actual Crossrail to sit in the channels. And then as you go back, you're going to see a couple more, and then there's a long jump till you get to the very back. So on this one, this is definitely the front, and then the one on this side is showing the back forward. So we're going to flip that around real quick. Now, how do we know which side it goes on? Well, as you can see here too, they're slightly located inside towards the center on both sides. So when you look at it, this is actually going to be over the driver's side, and this is going to be over the passenger side, because once we get up there, you'll see that those holes are slightly, let me get up there and see what I'm looking at. As you can see, those holes are slightly offset to the inside. So before you get up there, you're going to know which ones you need. So hopefully that'll move things along. Now, you'll reuse these, so be careful taking them out. They are a T25, and let me grab that and be right back. Okay guys, now we've got ourselves a bird's eye view of what we're looking at here. Now, as I mentioned, we've got 5 of these bolts. You're going to reuse them, so definitely save them. I was looking actually through the instructions, and it doesn't say anything about once you reinstall them, or should I say put the C channels back in. It doesn't say a specific torque number, so I would definitely firm them down pretty good. The last thing you want to do is have this main support channel, you know, bracket C channel going in here, coming off the vehicle and finding itself with all your belongings or whatever's up there flying down the road. With that said too, I was also looking at the instructions, and it mentioned how you basically have 200-pound capacity. I don't know if it's per bar or for both of them. So if you're going to put a kit up here, just do 1 kit at a time. 2, you might get over 200 pounds. Okay, that last one was a joke. You should put your kids on top of the car. Maybe your in-laws, but not your kids. Might be against the law though. So, what we're going to do here, as you can see, as I mentioned earlier, you got more holes up in the front side of it. In addition to the driver's side, actually has the hole slightly inset, and once you pop it in, it'll line up. Should pretty much drop right down, lines all the way down. So if they're not, grab the other one, take a look at it, see if that's you've got the wrong side. Now the other big thing I want to draw attention to is when you put these back in, definitely finger tight, or should I say start them with your hand, with your finger, versus hitting them right away with a power tool. The last thing you want to do is cross thread something that's up here. I don't know how much of a hassle it would be to replace one of these pieces. I really didn't look at it, but it's not something I want to figure out or find out. So definitely start it with the using your fingers. So, all right, well, I'll knock through this, and once I'm done, I'll come back at it fast forward. Now, if I didn't say it earlier, the tool that I've been using is a T25. It's probably the only thing not in the kit that you're going to need. So get one of those Torx 25 and tie it to your favorite power tool or however you want to tighten it down. Everything else that you're going to need is going to be actually in the box. There's actually a tool, Security T20, Torx 20, that you'll be able to utilize. So let's go ahead and show you how these mount down on the rails. Okay, 2 things. I did mention it earlier. I'm using a Torx 25 to mount down the C channels. It's probably the only thing that's not included in the kit, so I wanted to mention that. The rest of the pieces you need are going to be actually in the kit. So I'm going to go ahead and show you a couple things real quick. I wanted you to take a look at the fact that on these trains, or whatever you want to call them, that mount into this piece, you actually have a double notch here, both in the front and the back. These go down into the C channels. This will slide backwards and forwards, but there is something that's very important the way you mount these, and as you can see, there's a pass-through hole. I actually have this mounted. Bear with me a second so I can try to take it off. Okay, so what's going to happen is you're going to slide it in, and then you're going to make it so this piece comes forward, but as you can see, there's kind of a little bit of light that comes through, allows you to screw through to this back from the top. The problem is you certainly could cross thread if you didn't have this lined up properly. So as you can see there, it's actually pretty good, but it's easy when you get up there and trying to push it and not align it all the way. So maybe you have just a little bit of light showing through, and the last thing you want to do is actually strip it or cross thread it. So what you want to do is when we get up there, I'm going to lay down these trains or whatever you want to call them in the C channels, and then when you push them in, make sure you line them all the way up so you have a clear push through. Now you'll be able to tell right away because these screws will not drop down like they're going to now. So you can see it doesn't want to drop down. I mean, it will literally fall right down when it's ready. So we're not lined up all the way. So what I'm going to do is push this again further. That did it. I could feel it went a little bit further. I didn't push it all the way down. You can see it literally drop right down, so I can start finger tight. But before, I wasn't able to do it. I thought I had it all the way down too. So be very careful when you're doing this. And we'll go back up to the vehicle and take a look from the top and put these pieces on. So now, as I mentioned earlier, there's an opening in the center portion that allows this train to drop down and slide forward. So you're going to put two on each side, one towards the front for the front rail and one towards the back. Now, the back one, you're going to have a little notch that's going to be in the way. Once you get past it, you'll be fine. But initially, you have to push a little bit to push it through. So we're going to put another set on the other side so you've got a mounting point for both locations. Okay, now I've got both Crossrails up here. I've got the channels in for something to mount to. I've got the train sitting on top. Now I've got 8 bolts to go in. So once you put these in, you can actually put down these rubber stoppers. It prevents it from coming up once you install it. All you've got to do is basically set one front end down, slide it forward into the track a little bit, drop the other one, and push it back. So now, another thing to be aware of is these are different widths. So as you notice here, it's not reaching all the way across where the second one is, even though it's got a little adjustment in it. So what you need to be aware of is that the vehicle narrows as it goes back. So the shorter one is going to go towards the back of the vehicle. Now, one other thing to note is there is a front and a back. The front has a ridge on it, and my understanding is it's designed to prevent air noise. So if you don't want a bunch of noise from the top of your vehicle, whistling, whatever it might cause, definitely look at that, making sure it's forward. And I don't even know if you can install it if it's not that way, but either way, that's what the deal is with that. Now, getting back to dropping this in, those pins, and then you should be able to literally drop it down and finger tight screw it in. So make sure you do that. If for whatever reason you can't do it, you're going to have to push fairly hard to bring that notch all the way engaged. So, one thing I want to point out, I dropped it, I'll be right back. One thing that I want to point out is this special screw that they have, or the special bolt. It's designed as a safety. So I don't know if you can see it with this lighting, but there's a hole in the center of it. The 8 bolts they provide you, both for the cap and then also one for each, tying the actual, locking the Crossrail into the channel or into the little runners that are in there. This bolt actually has a pin in it. Now, you could drill that out and avoid it. You probably mess up the rest, but you definitely want to keep this tool handy. So if you ever want to move it around, it has that hole and they'll mate up. Otherwise, if you get a T20, which is the size of this, it won't have that opening and you won't be able to get it into this bolt. So just be aware of that. This becomes an important tool. Label it, put it in your vehicle, maybe hide it. I don't know where you're gonna, glove box or wherever you think is good for you, but it is something if you ever want to move them back and forth, you're gonna want to have handy. So I'm leaving 2 over here and taking 2 to the other side. Slide in my rubber bumper bracket. And then I'm going to go ahead and, I don't know that it matters when you're putting this on which side you're doing first, on top of the fact that this one I got this one fairly off, but they definitely want to be straight to slide easy. So do your best to kind of align it here before you start to try to push it forward. And this one seems to be all the way forward. Let's see, does it drop down yet? It dropped right down. So I can actually tighten it with my finger all the way down. Now also too, this is something you're going to run into possibly. They are adjustable, sliding backwards and forwards, or should I say wider and narrower. So I did have to slide this out a little bit to get it over. So just be aware this portion here, probably on either side, certainly on this side, slides so you can actually widen it if you need to. I'm going to push it all the way through. Right now it's not dropping right down. I felt like I pushed it enough, but I didn't. Tried it again and it went further, and sure enough, it dropped right down. So definitely take a look at that. Don't try to force it. Don't get the wrench on it right away. Don't get a power tool if you've got a security T20 to do that. So now let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and set these in a position where it's going to work for now. The instructions also say that you should have at least 14 inches separation when they're not in use. So definitely keep them at least 14 inches apart. I'm going to go ahead and tighten these down now so I can put the plate on the top and show you how that goes together. Because there are a front, or should I say there is a front and a back to each one of these. So I'm going to tighten down, and then I'm going to wrench them down pretty good here so they don't move on me. Don't have to go crazy because they don't have any load on them right now, but if somebody was to come along and put a load on it, I think it was tightened all the way down, you probably want to make sure it's set up right. The real issue is, once you get some product on here, some volume on here, whatever you're putting up here, the aerodynamic, the drag on it is going to start to pull it back. So if this is loose at all, you're not going to see it, but it may start sliding back on top of your roof, and don't want anything to happen that way. So I've got 2 bolts remaining on both sides, and those are for the caps. So let's go get those and we'll be near completion. Now, I grabbed all 4 caps. I had actually had them laid out already. I kind of mixed them up now, but the one thing you want to be aware of is this front is lower and longer than the back. So if you look at these pieces, you can tell right away the longer but lower and the shorter but taller wouldn't fit on here properly, which it doesn't. It won't go in the snaps. So this is telling me this is going to go on the other side. I'll set that up there. But this one, which has the taller back end, and then also longer and not as high, should lay right down and pop right in. Now with the remaining, one of the remaining screws that I have, to be able to finger tighten it down, and then I'll use a special torque wrench that they provide, put it all the way down. So you're going to need to be familiar with how these go on, because as you need to adjust them for whatever load that you're putting on, you definitely want to know at least which way they go. You know, fairly easy. Once you've done it a time or two, I think it's pretty easy to remember. So, I don't know if you noticed, but when I popped this on here, I had not tightened this side down. So as soon as I got up here, I kind of remembered that. So I was coming back over here, and sure enough, it wasn't tightened all the way down. So these come back off. This is where you would adjust it back and forth. But in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and tighten it down. I'm going to do it this way till I get to a certain load. And then I'm going to go ahead and wrench into it a little bit. You know, don't go hog wild. You don't need to strip it out. That's the last thing you want to deal with, trying to get another one, but you definitely want it down pretty good. Once you've done that, it'll snap back down. Like I said, always remember to use your finger to get them nearly all the way down, or at least several threads into it, so you don't strip these out. Okay guys, well, here's the finished product. As you can see, Crossrails. So one thing you, like I said, need to remember, they actually offer 3 kits, or should I say 3 different parts that are called out as Crossrail pieces. The big issue is that people don't realize they need this C-channel as a mounting point to allow this to mount to something. And the other key item that I would have people remember is whenever you're tightening something back down or reinstalling this or the bolt that's under here for adjustment, use your fingers first. Don't hit it with a wrench right away. You've got basically the front lip that reduces the wind noise. You got this piece here which sits down in, basically covers that up so it can't be pulled back out. If you slide it in, it'll go into that channel and then pull it back some. Basically centered it, and that opening has been removed. So and then as I mentioned, there's a lower front back. So if you lay this out now, as I mentioned, you've got 3 different part numbers. You got the C channels only, you have the Crossrail only, and then you also have a kit that includes both these, both the C channels and the Crossrails. And most people need that, but instead of waiting to find out, have somebody look up your VIN or possibly give you the wrong part, or maybe you order the wrong part. It's real easy. Just come up here and reach up here. If you've got no metal rail up here that allows those tracks to go into, you've got no way to mount it. And you're going to end up having to buy these. And the place you can get these, and I'll put the link down at the bottom, shopchevyparts.com. They offer all three, so if you've ordered this for somewhere else already, or you bought it, just the Crossrails, you can just order the C channels to go back in it. It doesn't include any bolts or anything in it. It's just the actual metal channels. Or you can order just the Crossrails. But I know very few people that, unless maybe it was a used car and the customer forgot to turn in or took these off and didn't turn it in. But the best thing for you to do is reach up here, stand on the door, and reach up and grab it. Okay, one thing I wanted to draw attention to also, if you've actually cross-threaded any of your bolts, having installed it before seeing this video, or maybe it occurs while you're doing this video, or should I say while you're doing your install and didn't notice it on the video. There's two things you can do. As I mentioned before, if you don't line it up properly, the bolt won't come down. So if you get it cross-threaded and when you pull it back out you can't get it in there, you can always take it and come back this back side and basically screw it in. So you can actually take care of any cross-threading that occurred in the front part by screwing it down. One thing you can't really do is actually, you can pull this piece out, but it can't go either way. You can't flip it back over because there's a notch over here where my thumb is, and it lines up with this piece, so it's always got to be facing this direction. But it also contributes, I think, a little bit to the fact that when people thread it in from the top, it may not align as easily as it might if it was actually rounded up at the top. But you can't flip it, so like I said, you can go ahead and take this piece back off, run it back in this way, and hopefully remove the any cross-threading that may have occurred. As I said, always run it down finger tight or with your fingers first before you tighten it down. And then, as I mentioned too, it's very important when you put this piece in here to push it as far as you can and make sure when you do that that it actually will drop down by itself. This one's not doing it. So I thought I, once again, pushed it all the way. So now as soon as I do that, you can see it drop right down, and then I can run it down with my finger. The same is true if you cross thread these pieces. Those caps go on. If for some reason, you weren't paying attention when you popped it on there, and then you start to run it down maybe with a tool instead of with your finger, and you cross thread this, you can do the same kind of thing on that. It unfortunately requires you to take off the full rail again. But what you're going to end up doing is running this back up through here. This looks like brass, so it may not be as strong, I don't know. But you can work this back this way and actually take out, probably a good part of any cross-threading if you didn't go crazy with it, and grab the little wrench and run it back up so you can get rid of most, if not all, of what's there, depending on how far you can run it down without getting into this edge here. But just something I wanted to mention to you guys so that you know. I did mention previously how it is adjustable. It is on one side, adjustable only. The opposite side is fixed, whereas this side has some adjustment to it, so allows you to, make it larger or wider. Anyway, I just wanted to add that for those people that may have already done an install and think they've ruined it. The best fix, if you can fix it, is to run it back the other side and allow those threads to be kind of cleaned back out, both on this side and this one, and then hopefully that will address any type of cross threading you may have started on the front side. Worst case scenario, you get a tap, and somebody has a tap, or you have one yourself, you can tap it out and run all the way down. So hope that was a little helpful to anybody that's either cross-threaded or thinks they may have cross-threaded their threads. Thanks. Okay guys, that concludes an episode of After Hours Installer, and as you can see behind me, we finished with the Crossrail kit installed on the Chevy Traverse. And if you have any questions, put them down in the comments field. I'll provide links to where we got the product from, and then if you would, check the like button, and if you're waiting to see other products installed on this or other vehicles, hit the subscribe button. and let us know what you're looking for in the comments, and we'll go from there. Thanks again.